So let me start out with my first slide. You see a background picture, and that background picture shall be the symbolic picture for my presentation. It shows the Solar Impulse airplane, and for us Solar Impulse is a superb example of what is possible in clean tech or in sustainable business today, and it's also a superb example of what is possible in clean tech out of Switzerland. Solar Impulse is an airplane that has a wingspan of a Boeing 747 and the weight of a small passenger car. It is entirely powered by solar energy instead of fossil-based energy in its wings. It has solar panels on the wings and batteries inside the wings. Bertrand Piccard and André Borschberg, the two founders of Solar Impulse, are also closely involved with Swiss Cleantech, our association. In fact, Bertrand is the president of our patronage committee, and with his airplane has broken several world records this year and is also heavily supporting Swiss Cleantech and its cause. If I have to summarize the main message of what I like to tell to you today, is that regardless if you are from society or from business, that sustainability today is a fact. Because it is a fact, we have to act accordingly. As businesses, we have to act accordingly, and because it's a fact, we can also act accordingly. We know where the problems are, and as businesses, we can provide solutions. This is particularly obvious in the climate and energy debate, and it should lead us to the clear conclusion that one has to act today, one should act today, because technologically it is absolutely feasible to act today. Bertrand Piccard has broken its world record because the solar airplane has started and landed with solar power. It has stayed up 24 hours a day, so even at night the batteries were strong enough to keep the airplane up, and we think that a range of technologies will be absolutely strong enough to make our sustainability goals come through. In order for this to happen, however, it is no longer possible to rely on the efforts of companies on a free will basis alone. The time, as we call it, of the neoliberal market economic view, in our view, has come to a conclusion. Relying purely on the free will of companies without the political framework will not lead us to the solutions that we need to reach in time, and therefore a new economic policy is called for today in our view, and that's the economic policy of what we, as we call it, a sustainable market economy. What this is exactly, I will get to a little later. Key is here that Switzerland can lead the way in our efforts. As a clean tech and climate pioneer, we can lead the way, and we'd like others that are able and willing to lead to follow us, so that together we can show the other countries which are less privileged in their starting position how we could solve the problems that need to be solved today. Let me start out very briefly by showing you, giving you a bit of background what Swiss Cleantech is all about. We are a business association that was founded pretty much 2 years ago, on the first day actually of the Copenhagen Climate Conference. We set up Swiss Cleantech as a business association that turns sustainability from a business point of view upside down. Before, the business community, particularly in Switzerland, looked at sustainability and was predominantly associating it with more rules and problems. So each time the middle parties asked the business community, are you in support of a particular new law or for a particular new regulation, the business community reacted hesitantly, stating that no, sustainability is a problem for us, we don't want more rules, we'd rather not have a stringent climate law, or we'd rather not have a carbon tax. In the view of Swiss Cleantech, that's the wrong way to look at sustainability. In fact, sustainability is much more of an opportunity than a problem to us, and therefore we embrace new regulations rewarding sustainability. We have put this point of view in a publication that was issued in October last year, the Swiss clean tech strategy. A month later, the government of Switzerland, a variety of departments have confirmed that view with the master plan Clean Tech Switzerland. So now we have the business side and also the public side clearly pointing towards the direction that Switzerland should be a clean tech leader, and that we have an excellent disposition to be a clean tech leader. For business reasons that would make sense. For business reasons we should go this way. And with Swiss Clean Tech we now have an organization that can lobby the type of sustainability laws and regulations that we would like as a business community. We can win majority in Parliament for these laws, and that is a new development that has taken place, and it has been visible in Switzerland for the last 2 years. With this we have an important way of making a contribution, and that's by collecting the facts out of the business community and then provide those facts as input to the regulatory authorities. In fact, much has to do with clean tech is about technological innovation, and that innovation is happening very, very fast. So in order to make sure we have enough and the right type of input for the regulatory authorities from the business community that experiences this innovation on a day-to-day basis, the Business Association Swiss Clean Tech helps and is able to get that the newest technological advances from the business community and provide input to the regulatory authorities on what is possible today. The first topic we have as a business association focused on was carbon. And we have then expanded to energy, and we will expand to other areas in the future. Very briefly on our setup, we have an office in Zurich, sort of the economic capital of Switzerland. We have an office in Bern, the political capital, and we have an office through a partner in Geneva, which is obviously very relevant for us with respect to international organizations and international standards and agreements. So we also in Geneva. And in addition to that, Swiss Clean Tech is a founder of what you call the Global Clean Tech Cluster Association, GCCA, and that's an association that combines different organizations similar to Swiss Clean Tech around the world. Through that network of other associations, we can quickly reach business partners, we can quickly reach political decision makers, so we have a fairly strong setup already in Switzerland and internationally. For you to get a quick overview as to the support that we're having, we started with 0 members in 2009, and today we already have over 260 companies that are members of Swiss Clean Tech. You see on the left hand side a few of the logos of companies. They are different companies, large and small, from many different industries. You will certainly recognize some of the international players such as Chiquito or Cisco or Schneider Electric, which has over 100,000 people worldwide, so large player. We also have a number of utility companies that are members from the cantons, like EKZ, that's the Zurich Cantonal Utility Company, as well as several from cities such as the city of Geneva or the city of Bern, the city of Basel. So we have the large utility companies backing our policies as well. And next to the corporate members you see on the left, we also have associate organizations so that we can quickly expand our reach when we do lobbying and voice in a political field. So we have other organizations that we can tap and accumulate voices and strength when we are engaging in our lobby activities. Today, Swiss Clean Tech is a relevant force, and we have been able to influence quite a few developments in Switzerland, and I will quickly talk to you about these developments now. Before I do that, though, I'd like to let you know what basically is the common denominator of all the different companies that I've shown you a second ago. I told you they're from different industries, and that corresponds to what our definition is of clean tech. The common denominator of these companies is that they are clean tech companies and that they believe in the sustainable market economy. Because for us, clean tech has nothing to do with a particular industry. It is also not a group of industries together. But clean tech is a quality factor that can apply to all different industries. Clean tech has to do with total cost accounting, so the internalization of externalities, and it has to do with the type of political strategy and economic policy that we are pursuing, and the economic policy being that of a sustainable market economy. The sheer fact that we live on one planet with limits, that we want to grow still as businesses, leads us to the conclusion that we need a clear ecological framework, a clear social framework that accounts for the planetary limits, but that does not mean that we are promoting socialism or anything of that sort. It simply means that within the clear regulatory framework, there can still be a free market that develops dynamically. It has to play with some new rules, but we don't want more rules, we just want the right rules. So sustainable market economy with a clear framework and a free market inside that systematically rewards sustainability, and predominantly the framework has to focus on issues such as resources and emissions, of course, with which we can reach our sustainability targets. We're very privileged at Swiss Cleantech in the sense that every day we meet new companies and see new technologies emerge, and as time is limited, I don't have time to give you a lot of background on this, but I still would like to give you one of a new member that just joined Swiss Cleantech. It's a Basel-based company called Rollic. It's about 60 people strong, has been going on for about 8 years, and has invested lots of money during 6 years of intensive research. The company didn't have any single customer until 2 years ago, and in 2009 it managed to get Sharp out of Japan as a customer. The company provides a nanotechnology layer for Sharp LCD monitors. That layer is has a thickness of 1/1000th of a hair, and that nano layer has today been included in 19 million different Sharp LCD screens. The original objective to include that layer was to make sure that the crystals within the LCD monitor are lined up in the right way to optimize the picture quality. But because the crystals are in fact through the nano layer lined up in the right way, less light has to be used within the monitor, so this very tiny layer that is provided by Rollic leads actually to a 20% energy savings of the LCD screen. So very small layer providing a very substantial effect in terms of energy saving. And for us, this is a superb example as to where the different areas of innovation can hit and how the different technologies that we have available today help us in reaching our sustainability goals. I will not spend too much time on telling you how strong Switzerland's position is. The previous speaker, Rolf Henner, already touched upon quite a few of these issues. The main point I'd like to make here is that Switzerland, in very many different fields, is today already a clean tech leader. It is not only leading in these particular fields such as mobility or recycling, etc., but it also is leading in terms of wealth. We are one of the most wealthiest nations on the planet. We also, in terms of competitiveness, ranked amongst the most competitive players just recently again by the World Economic Forum. And also we are consistently rated the world's most innovative country by several different institutions, including the European Union. And these factors together simply point to the fact that Switzerland can and should be a leader in the fields that we need to tackle in terms of sustainability, and that, as I will point out again, the world should hold Switzerland accountable to be a leader, not wait for others who are in a position of less strength, but actually make sure Switzerland, from its good position, leads the way and is therefore able to show other nations what is possible today. Brief example how we basically have emphasized the strengths of cleantech in Switzerland was in a recent trip with Federal Councillor Doris Leuthard to China on the occasion of the 60-year China-Swiss anniversary on trade relationships. You see on the picture on the right a panel, a high-level panel, which included the chairman of ABB, the CEO of Holcim Oerlikon Solar in China, as well as the CEO of Trina Solar, one of the China's largest and most successful solar companies. Together with Bertrand Piccard and myself, we have discussed the different ways how China and Switzerland can work together. And in fact, the two documents I mentioned at the very outset of the presentation, our Cleantech Strategy Switzerland, as well as the Master Plan Cleantech Switzerland by the government, they both have a sentence that reads that a Chinese person or an Indian person or a South African person should think, when he or she thinks of Switzerland, should associate Switzerland with cleantech as Switzerland today is associated with chocolate, cheese or banks. So that is our goal, and when we were in China we have clearly been able to demonstrate how Switzerland can contribute to solving China's cleantech challenges, and there's been huge interest out of the Chinese community to cooperate with Switzerland on these issues. For us as Swiss businesses, this clearly demonstrated that with cleantech particularly we can differentiate from other nations, we can innovate on the cleantech basis, and with that really have a competitive advantage when dealing with important business partners such as China. I mentioned that we first concentrated on carbon, and the current slide shows you a quick overview as to how we have done this. When Swiss Cleantech started its activities in 2009, the Swiss climate law started to be debated. The big question was, shall we have a tough carbon law, or shall we have one that kind of makes it easy in the short term? One part of the business community proposed that we should reduce carbon in Switzerland by 10% and should also reduce carbon abroad by another 10%, leading to 20% total reduction by 2020. And when Swiss Cleantech has heard of this position, we could not understand why we would go for such a mediocre goal. We have then mobilized a campaign that was backed by many large, strong Swiss companies. We were able to represent over 200,000 jobs in this campaign, and we have argued that Switzerland needs a carbon law which is much tougher, which has a 20% reduction in Switzerland and a further 20% reduction outside of Switzerland, which together brings us a 40% carbon reduction to 2020, and therefore puts us in line with what the IPCC tells us should be reduced in Switzerland as an industrialized, advanced nation. For us this is extremely important because we think a tough climate law will make the business community strong in this respect, and we also think a tough climate law is all that Switzerland deserves, because we are a clean tech and climate leader, and our credibility would be at stake if we promote ourselves as a leader on the one hand, but are not strong enough with our own commitments inside Switzerland, as well as our investment reduction targets abroad. Luckily, we have been able to prevail, and the carbon law that should be passed a few days from today, actually, when the winter session starts in Parliament, is the carbon law that we have been promoting. And very recently, the large business community that was until recently against such a new law, has conceded that this is the right way now, and we're very, very happy that Switzerland will have a clear and tough carbon law, as we should have. Now the next topic I'd like to briefly touch upon is energy. Energy is also a hot topic in this year's political debate in Switzerland. Obviously it has huge implications for our climate and carbon targets, and I quickly like to give you a background as how we as Swiss Cleantech have approached energy. I won't have much time to go into details, but very briefly give you a background as what has happened on the energy debate. As you're probably aware of, Switzerland decided to exit from nuclear, and we have done so with a lot of discussion also on the fact if this would be a problem for our carbon and climate targets. When we have therefore, as Swiss Cleantech, decided to look into energy in quite a bit of detail, and we have done that, let me quickly give you an overview. The first thing we noticed in energy is that today, practically everywhere in the world, energy has a lot to do with business, but it also has a lot to do with government. So there's a role for both. In Switzerland, there's very, very limited free market activity in energy today, which we think is a bad thing and should be changed. And also, the current condition of our energy situation, if you want, in Switzerland is not all that fortunate, because there's great risks involved in terms of dependency. If you look at the chart on the right, it shows that last year we had 80% dependency from abroad, meaning 80% of our primary energy is imported. We are at high risk even before our decision to exit from nuclear. And when we talk about the nuclear issue, it was very important to emphasize in Switzerland that it's actually only 10% of our total energy story, that 90% has to do with other stuff, predominantly fossil energy. So the nuclear decision is an important one, but it's one that affects only 10% of our primary energy. It's about 40% of our electricity, but it's 10% of our total energy consumption. When looking at nuclear after Fukushima, and in the case of Swiss Cleantech actually already before Fukushima, it becomes very clear that nuclear is not the cheap energy solution everybody believed it would be. It is far too risky for countries such as Switzerland with the density of population, and it is also, if you look at total costs, absolutely not feasible in terms of good economics. The externalities are not included correctly, so one has to clearly conclude if markets would play correctly, if total cost accounting would take place, nuclear is economically not feasible. But as I said, nuclear is not the main issue. In Switzerland, actually, fossil energy is the main issue in terms of our dependency from abroad. And therefore, the energy change in Switzerland is not just an exit from nuclear, but it's definitely also an exit from fossil energy. Both in a controlled way, I must emphasize, not from today to tomorrow, but clearly with clear targets, we must exit from both nuclear and fossil energy eventually. The main points that we mentioned in the debate and that were heard particularly by the business community were surrounding the value added in terms of economics what fossil energy is concerned. Because in fact, if you look at the amount of money we as Switzerland spend to buy a greasy substance or a gas from abroad, a few weeks later burn it in Switzerland just to buy more of that greasy substance with very, very little job creation, very, very little value creation in general happening in Switzerland. One also has to conclude there that fossil energy, apart from the climate problem, is not the right way to go for Switzerland in general. In fact, the right way to go is where the actual market potential today lies, and that's clearly in efficiency, in energy efficiency, in renewable energies, and in network technology. So for us, it was absolutely obvious, making this analysis, that a change in our energy system would be the right way to go, and that this change is not a bad thing, but actually a good thing for business, because we start to put our money where the actual market potential is, and not where the problems or the risks are, as in the case of nuclear and fossil energy. We had many arguments against us. Many people argued that this would kill businesses in Switzerland, but in fact that is not the case, and we see now in the debate more and more factors come about, more and more science reveals that we are on the right track. The trends are clearly on our favor. Energy is going from a central to a decentral system. It's going from a highly regulated national type system to a more international, more market-based system, and we think that's a very good thing. In order to make our point, we have drafted the Clean Tech Energy Strategy. We have done so with our members, about 60 experts in about 10 different workshops where we discuss with the leaders in the respective fields in Switzerland the main points. We have not done that in order to lobby for the solar industry or lobby for the wind industry. In fact, we have taken a distinctly macroeconomic approach, trying to do the best energy strategy for Switzerland as a whole and not for a particular industry. The clear thing we have done is to set targets. The targets, as I explained before, we wanted to have a nuclear-free energy system. We wanted to be clearly climate compatible with 40% reduction by 2020 and at least 80% by 2050 to stay within the 2-degree target. We have also set as a target to turn around our self-sufficiency from now being 80% dependent on foreign markets. We wanted to be at least 75% self-sufficient, and as the last main block of targets, we wanted to have an energy strategy that is business-wise the right energy strategy that invests where the attractive markets are. So we have started a modeling effort over about 6 months. We've looked at where the demand is, we've looked at where the efficiency potentials are, and we've then looked at how we can supply the amount of energy that needed to be supplied given our conditions in Switzerland. So as we have limited time, I'm only able to briefly touch on the points, but to give you a quick overview, we have looked at energy services in terms of energy services demanded from today to 2050. We have looked at the main areas where energy is demanded, such as heated space, meaning housing, process heat, meaning business, personal transportation, goods transportation, and then the category of other, including electric devices, lamps, IT, etc. And if you see, as you can see on the chart, it is very clear from today to 2050, the demanded services in each of those areas increase quite substantially. They increase such that it is very clear, they increase because, I beg your pardon, we want to keep a high standard of living, and they increase also because we have immigration and economic development. That's the bad news. But the good news actually is that if we look at the different areas, in each of these areas, and I will click them through because unfortunately I don't have time to talk about them in detail, but in each of those areas, there is more energy being demanded, but there's also huge efficiency potentials that apply in those areas. So altogether, in fact, the net effect is such that we can provide a higher demand of energy services with a lot less actual energy being supplied. And as you will see in the final results of our energy strategy, we actually are going to halve our total energy demand from 2010 to 2050 while reaching our climate goals. You see the green line showing a 20% reduction by 2020 and an 85% reduction by 2050 in CO2, as well as the black line reaching our self-sufficiency target of 75%. As you see, however, we reduce total energy but increase electricity. The bottom blue line reaching from about 60 terawatt to 78 terawatt about in 2050. So we increase electricity demand while reducing total energy and thereby reducing predominantly fossil fuels. This is a feasible solution. We have compared our model to many different organizations also modeling these type of scenarios, most importantly the Swiss Technology Institute And to give you an idea, our figure for total electricity demand in 2050 has been 78 terawatts. The ETH has reached the conclusion that it would be 80 terawatts. So very, very similar results. Now, before I conclude on energy and then go to my last slides, drawing to a conclusion, the overall message we like to communicate to Durban, the quick hint that also on the political front a lot of things are happening in energy. We have Bertrand Piccard and Swiss Cleantech together launched the Energy Charter, or in German the Energiecharta, which has basically listed the main energy goals as I showed you a moment ago in our energy strategy. We presented the Charta to all the candidates of the national election, and as you see from the pie chart, we were very lucky that about 540 candidates have responded signing our charter, and those candidates have been from all the different political parties. Today we're happy to announce that over 30% of elected parliamentarians, including 5 party presidents of the 7 main political parties in Switzerland, have signed our energy charter. So obviously we are quite positive with respect to our lobbying efforts in the coming parliamentary sessions, and therefore also the success of the climate law as well as the energy strategy. Now, we have done a lot on carbon, we have done a lot on energy, and the next step is going to be the finance market for us. Obviously, finance is important because if we can get finance behind us, there's a huge leverage in what we can do. Finance is where the money is directed towards investment, and investment is what's deciding which infrastructure is going to be around for us and the coming generations. We have launched what we call the Grüngeld-Strategie on the 1st of November this year. The Grüngeld-Strategie is the strategy for sustainable finance, if you want. We have done that also looking at the 2011 Global Investor Statement, which has been signed by 280 different investors representing no less than $20 trillion in investment. So these are the big boys. And as you see in the red circled areas, these big boys clearly promote what we are promoting as an economic association. They state clearly the world now needs the regulatory framework that systematically rewards sustainability, because if we have that framework, money will flow to investments that are low carbon, that are sustainable, and with that we will able to reach our targets and find solutions for the pressing problems that we all are facing. So finance is the next for us, and in finance, with finance I like to come to the conclusion that if you'll allow me to briefly repeat that sustainability is a fact, that no matter if you're from business or from society at large, you have to respect that fact, that this fact should and can be respected because there's business solutions that can solve the problems that we're facing today. If we do that as advanced countries like Switzerland, we will increase our competitiveness and not reduce our competitiveness. What is needed is the regulatory framework that is put in place for a sustainable market economy. A climate deal, if it's bottom up or top down, would represent obviously such a framework. We think that Switzerland will make its part with the climate law, as I explained, with the energy strategy that is taking place in Switzerland right now, because a growing community in Switzerland but also internationally from the business side understands that clean tech is the way to go, and will see to it that politically the necessary majorities can be won in order to find solutions. So our call to you in Durban is that you should hold Switzerland accountable. We are a clean tech leader, and we should therefore also be a climate leader. We want to be a climate leader, at least a growing part of the business community wants to be a leader. We think that a bottom-up approach with a group of companies that are willing to lead, a club of the willing as it is promoted in the press quite a few times already now in the last days here in Switzerland, is potentially an attractive way to go. We hope Switzerland is a core part of this Club of the Willing. The conditions are that the club will also receive some rewards, that moving ahead first will be rewarded, so maybe a border tax adjustment should be looked at in more detail. Maybe there's other solutions to reward those who are willing to move ahead. And with this I would like to conclude, maybe starting with a Solar Impulse picture of the beginning. This is when Solar Impulse landed in Brussels to promote the sustainable market economy, and we hope that as we had a huge success in Brussels, we will also be able to make a contribution in Durban. You see my last picture, Solar Impulse, with its huge size in Brussels, meeting a lot of the parliamentarians and interested press, showing what is possible in clean tech today. Thank you very much for your attention. We are here for questions should you have them.